So we're really excited to present Natalie Helm performing the music of Bach for you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, since we're 6 feet away, I'm going to take this off for now. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about the background. I won't talk too much because I know we want to get to the music, but I want to let you know that this is going to be kind of an experimental, what you would usually find as a classical music concert experience. The goal is to have it to be able to let the music wash over you like you usually can in a concert experience, but also engage you a little bit more on a new and different level. And what kind of brought up this idea for me is over quarantine, I got really into studying positive psychology. And I'm not sure we can dive more into that afterwards, but it's something that was only founded in the early 2000s. And very quickly, there was this 5-pronged approach to well-being and flourishing. And as I'm reading it, of course, I'm reading it from the music world perspective, from my life, my career, and I'm like, what is missing kind of out of the classical music concert experience that I could add to that to make it more well-rounded? And there were 2 elements to this that really stood out to me, and it was engagement, and of course I was thinking between the performer and the audience, engagement and achievement. And I thought, as a performer, I walk away from a performance feeling like I achieved something because I'm like, oh, that was a good performance, or oh, that could have gone better. But you still have that achievement of having prepared and being presented. And I thought, I know the audience feels achievement when they leave, but can we magnify that more and kind of discover that together? So I thought one element of that would be, when I walk into a room to perform, we have Bach's interpretation, we have my interpretation of what Bach meant, and then we have all of your all's interpretations in addition to that. So we all leave this moment, this experience, with different ideas of kind of what happened, but a very unique experience that we all individually experience. So today I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that, and I'm going to ask for you all you can sit and enjoy the music and let it wash over you. But think of one single word. It can be an animal, it can be a color, a character, an emotion, something you feel, something or someone you picture when you hear this movement or this music. And at the end, we're going to take each of the 6 movements and we're going to collect 8 to 10 words from all of us. And I already have my interpretation, but I want to hear about what you all experience and how you all interpret this experience as well. So be thinking about maybe a word or a phrase or something that you can contribute at the end. And when I'm done playing through the whole suite, we will revisit the movements, and that's when you all will contribute to this experience. moment to, I'm going to play an excerpt just so that you can remember what the movements were like and which one was which. And we'll start with the prelude, which was obviously the opening one. And I'm going to play the excerpt, and then we'll just have people raise hands, and please come up with a word. Like I said, it can be an emotion, a character, a color, really an animal. We were actually discussing that earlier. Somebody really saw a giraffe in one of them. So nothing is too silly for this. And it will be really fun, and Mark is going to be typing out our words, and they will create a word cloud in the back, and we'll be able to see the interpretation that we have of this performance. So let me play a little excerpt from the prelude, and then we will take your words. So very scalier, and I won't give away too much. The opening movement. So now it's your turn. Any thoughts? Yes.
A warm embrace.
A warm embrace. Beautiful. Okay. Yes.
Bold.
Bold. I love it. Okay.
Traffic on 41.
Ah! Before or after the roundabouts? Okay.
Power.
Power. Excellent. Okay.
Elegant dancer.
Elegant dancer. Beautiful.
Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope. I love that. Okay.
Rushing water.
Rushing water. All right. And one more.
Fog.
Fog. I love it. Okay. So is it? Yes. Okay. One more.
Birds. Flock of birds.
Flock of birds. I love it. How many did we get on there, Mark?
Trying to catch up.
Well, we'll learn. This is a learning process. The
Yes.
second movement will go a little slower. Yes. So what?
Hold on, so we have a dancer, we have some birds. Did birds make it in? No.
Yeah, flock of birds.
Okay.
So as
Power,
you,
thank you.
yes, we had traffic, bold, kaleidoscope, embrace,
Rushing water.
rushing water. Yes, these are all wonderful.
Fog.
Oh, fog! We can't forget the fog. I love it. I love it. And we should definitely dive more into these during our discussion. But as you can see, like, you know, each of us have our own visions when we're listening to this, and I think just kind of exploring those together is really interesting. So after we look at this a little bit, we're going to look at what my quote was paired with this in the very beginning. And the way I came up with these quotes, the process was me collecting all of these words that I felt myself. So I had 6 to 8 to 10 words myself. And then I really narrowed it in on exactly what I envisioned for this movement. And you know what's interesting is with Bach, we all learn these from a young age, and we will be learning them through, you know, our hundreds. And you know, Yu Ma has already put out 3 different interpretations, and all 3 are extremely different. So the interesting part is, you know, all of our interpretations, including mine, will morph as we experience life and stuff, which I think is really cool. So now we're going to put...
Yeah, let me jump in just
Yeah.
really quick.
Oh, please.
So Natalie, could you tell us which Bach suite was this?
Oh, sorry. This was Bach Suite number 3.
Great.
C major. Yes.
Yeah. So number 3 in C major. And did I miss anyone's words? I may have. Power. I think we have power.
Excellent.
Okay. Birds.
I think we have the bits there.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's fine. Yeah.
the typist will improve as the evening goes on.
All right. So now we'll see the quote that I paired with it, which was "We rise by lifting others." And I decided that this, you know, for me, this suite is in the key of C major. It's very open and powerful, and it rings so well on the instrument, and it, you know, the entire instrument actually just opens up on, you know, that's the well, that was up too, but if it had been in tune, it would have really rung with the open C string. And I really liked the "We rise by lifting others" because I found so much positivity in this specific movement, and the scales, you know, when it gets it's arpeggiated. It's going up and down, and so I just really saw the rising and ebbing, kind of like the flowing of a river, you know, and the stalling of traffic. Yes, very similar in a lot of ways. So let's move on to the allemande now. The allemande was, let's see. Ready to collect in a slower pace words for this one. Let's start over here.
Lively.
Lively. All right. Yes?
Delight.
Delight. Beautiful. All right. Right here.
Chocolates.
Chocolates. Now you're talking my language. Love that. Okay.
Oh, you've got it,
Delight. Beautiful. Okay. Yes?
Joy.
Joy. Perfect. All right. How am I doing, Mark? Should I slow down a little? Okay. All right.
Laughter.
Laughter. Oh, I love that one. Very good. And we'll take a couple more. One in the back.
Dancing.
Dancing. Beautiful. And last one? Yeah? You?
Squirrels.
Squirrels? That is so cute. I can see them with their little nuts right now. Yes. That's perfect. I love that. So we have, you know, chocolates. It's a lively, joyful, cute movement, you know, for lack of a better description. It's very, the little trills and the way he kind of places things here and there, and the elaborations is very cutesy for Bach. And you're like, which kid were you writing about here, you know? You know, he had 22 kids, so he had a lot of material within that lifetime. So these, yeah, that's a lot. Yes, okay, so here's the quote that I carried with it. There might be some credit in being jolly. And I thought the name, like, jaunty and jolly kept swimming through my head, and I was like, it's so, like, I kind of picture this, like, guy, like, walking down the street with, like, a little hat, like a fedora, like, tilt to the side, just, like, with nowhere to go and nothing to do, like, sitting in the park, watching the squirrels, you know, just very, like, happy with his life and satisfied, and just, so that was my image for this one. So, as you can see, we're all very similar in that one. Let's move on to the courant, which is one of my favorite movements. So that one's very, well, I won't say any words. That was that movement. Let's start over here this time.
A fly on a windshield.
Aren't you the one that's in traffic too? They're like always a little annoyances. I love it. Okay.
Rain.
Rain?
Rain.
Rain. Oh, I love like the pitter patter. That's great. Okay.
You mentioned before river. Why don't we use his name in German, babbling brook?
Babbling brook. That's perfect because there's like little stones that are getting it caught up. I love that. Okay.
Symmetry.
Symmetry. That one's really interesting and different from, that's a different perspective to look at it. I love it. Okay.
Planting.
Planting. So like creating growth, like the beginning of something. That's really beautiful. Yes.
Bees.
Bees. It's like swarming bees. Lots.
No, just flying on, doing their thing.
Yeah. Kind of like going on their way, getting their pollen.
Exactly.
I love that. Yes. All right. And one more.
Marriage.
Marriage. Oh, I love that. Why don't you elaborate that? No, I definitely, yes. Would you like to elaborate? You're more than welcome to.
I don't know. Just like, I guess mostly the ending, and almost like it was like, I don't know. It was like, I'm trying to describe it.
Yeah. No, kind of like this big burst of enthusiasm at the end, maybe?
Not so much that. There was like, this enthusiasm in the beginning, but also like this like sort of thing like, oh, this is like just like a dramatic moment, but I feel good about it. Like, how describe it?
Oh, like the actual action of getting married? Like that? Oh,
A wedding, maybe.
a wedding. Maybe? No.
Oh, yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really beautiful. That's excellent. So let's see, what do we have? We have symmetry.
It means wedding, not marriage.
Yeah.
Sure.
Those are two different things. No,
True.
just joking.
How true.
I've only been married 2 years, so I'm still in the, yes, they're the same. Yeah. So this was my quote, let your curiosity be greater than your fear. And how I came up with this is I found it so, like, the meandering. So first of all, he starts with these arpeggios down. So they're all kind of falling down. But then there was, in the middle, he goes, so it's like almost somebody hesitating and going back and forth, and then just like, I'm gonna dive in and go for it, you know? And so I found that curiosity with kind of the going back and forth, and then the fear of just kind of like letting go and just, you know, letting curiosity be the guide. So that's how I came up with that one. The Saraband.
It ties in all with weddings, I guess.
Sorry?
The quote also ties in with weddings, I guess.
Yes, actually. Very good. I hadn't even thought of it from that perspective, but that's completely accurate. All right, so now we're in the Saraband. Anybody over here? Yes?
Deep,
Deep.
deep.
Excellent.
Deep.
Longing. Beautiful. Okay.
Confession.
Confession. Yes, that's very great. Yes.
Mournful.
Mournful. Sorry, what did you say?
Daunting.
Daunting. I like that. That's excellent. Yes, and the two of you?
Contemplative.
Contemplative.
Thank you. Contemplative.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes.
Somber.
Somber. Yes. And one more over here.
Me.
Yeah.
Memories.
Memories. Beautiful. Yes. You know, this slow movement, the sarabands and all of the suites are just, you know, contemplative. Contemplative is exactly, actually, you would think I'd never use the word, but it's actually what I think of most of the sarabands as kind of a time for reflection. It's kind of the, especially in this suite itself, it's kind of the slow movement of this one. So I think it's a nice break to take. Okay. Let's
I think
see.
I missed one word.
Somber, longing, deep, confession.
Confession.
Daunting.
Oh, daunting.
Daunting.
Thank you.
That was excellent. I really like confession. That was
Yeah,
really. It's like very vulnerable, you know, which
Yeah.
is this saraband definitely. All right. Comfort, peace, warmth, care, happiness, love. I knew I had found my home in you. I think it's a forever. And I thought this really encompassed, you know, I think, like all of you, there's so many memories tied in this. Some are beautiful, some are hurtful. And so I couldn't capture everything that in one word for this one, because I always tried to tie it down to one word. So I really thought warmth for me was my main one. I feel very comforted by my memories when I play this, and so that's how I.
You can't see the name of the person there.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yes.
Drishta
Buddhist.
Bhatia. Yeah, Drishta
A Buddhist monk.
Bhatia.
Yes, yeah. All right. And next is the phrase. Over here. Yes?
Flirtatious.
Flirtatious. Excellent.
Happiness.
Happiness. Very good. Okay. Yes?
Daybreak.
I was gonna say that. That's crazy.
I feel like you guys should talk afterwards.
Daybreak too. That's funny.
That's really cool. I would have never said that. So that's amazing. I mean, I agree with it completely, but that's beautiful. Excellent. Okay. Yes?
Pleasing.
Pleasing. Beautiful. Okay. Becky, sorry.
That's it. Graceful.
Graceful. Yes. All right. Have you gotten them all, Mark?
Yes.
All right. One more? Yes.
Dancing up the steps.
Dancing up the steps. I love that. Yeah. I like that a lot. All right. Flirtatious, coy. I think this one has a lot of, what is that saying? Like definitely winks, but like tongue in cheek. You know, it's a little winky. All right. This is wonderful. All right. The secret of genius is to carry the spirit of the child into old age. And I thought there was, there's something so playful about and I actually with Bach, which we can get into later, but with Bach, you can choose your own bowings because he didn't put any bowings in. And so I actually chose some of the kind of playful bowings to kind of simulate the playfulness of this this movement. All right, last one, the jig. Any words over here? Yeah?
Ceremony.
Ceremony. Excellent. Very cool. Playful. Yep. Yes.
Like
Flight. Wonderful. Excellent. Sorry?
Hopscotch.
Hopscotch. Yes. That's so great. And it's in 3, so it's like a little uneven. I love that. Yes?
I can't resist. Polka dots.
Oh. And you win the reward. No, I'm just joking. All right. Excellent. Anyone else? All right, so this one, playful, flight, ceremony, and hopscotch. I just love the similarities and yet the contrasting. And when somebody says a word, you're like, oh, I totally hear that, or I totally get that. But like the differences between ceremony and hopscotch, it's like these two kind of juxtapositions, but you hear, if I was playing it from kind of a ceremonial perspective, I would probably play it, I wanted to dive a little deeper about how I would change my interpretation based on your words as well. But ceremony would be, I would have a little bit of a stricter tempo. So, almost you could clap along to it. And if it was hopscotch, it would have a little bit more of an off-kilter feeling to it. So, but
Polka dots.
That's actually good. Let me do this. Kind of cutesy. I don't know. All right, excellent, very cool. Well, thank you all for doing this experiment with me. I'll be very curious. Oh, right, my love her but leave her wild. Yeah, I know. My husband was like, "What is this about?" No, but I have always loved this quote, but I thought it fit this. And I've actually been playing this movement since I was I learned it my first year playing cello. So I played violin for 11 years, and then for 7 years, and I switched to cello when I was 11. And this was one of the first things that I played of Bach's, and so I've been playing it, and it's morphed into just something that I feel really freed when I play it. This is one of my favorite movements, so I thought that kind of fit the wildness and rambunctiousness of this movement. So yeah, thank you all so much for participating. I was curious to see how this would play out, but I think it's been really fascinating.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Yeah.
So we're going to just continue our conversation here about the relationship between music, well-being, positive psychology, any and all topics kind of related to that world of ideas. So I wanted to kind of start out by asking you a question that I've been wanting to ask since I saw you post videos about positive psychology and then these movements of Bach suites. How did you come up with the idea of presenting this music in that way?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned, I think we were all kind of finding new and interesting things that we had interests in before, but during quarantine we kind of finally found the time to do that. And psychology was always one of those things I was really interested in, and so I started reading a lot about, specifically, as I mentioned, positive psychology, which is a whole different kind of chapter of psychology. And this book called Flourish by Martin Seligman, who is the founder of this. And as I started reading, I really got in, I read everything from a musician standpoint just because, I eat, breathe, and live music, and when I wasn't doing it a lot during quarantine, I was just kind of trying to feed my brain anything I could to keep it inspired while we weren't able to really play together. And so I decided I wanted to reach out through social media and provide music to people that, since we weren't giving concerts, and I wanted to experiment with the Bach suites in particular because I had never played through all 6 suites, and this was kind of something that cellists strive for in their career but rarely find the time to do it, except for the ones that are soloists. And so I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. So I sat down and I was like 36 days, because there's 6 movements for 6 suites. 36 days, and I will just learn them and play them all, and however it sounds is how I'm going to post it. And I thought, I want to add this extra element of positive psychology that I've been learning so much about. And for me, in order to play these, we've studied them, but we haven't necessarily practiced and internalized them enough to perform. And so I was familiar, of course, with every suite, and I already had the sounds in my head and the sound world that I wanted to create. And so I thought, just putting words to it is going to be helpful for me, and it's going to be helpful to present it in that style. So that's how I kind of came across this idea and finding these quotes with the music.
Yeah, it's an amazing story and idea. Were there any aspects of it that were unexpected for you? Anything about the project when you were posting videos online that was a challenge, or in encountering the music again?
Yeah.
I'm sure after living with it for a long time.
For sure.
What were some surprises for you?
So I'd say the two things, being able to really narrow down my interpretation of these movements. Because a lot of times we play instinctually as musicians, and especially professional musicians, orchestral musicians who always have a new piece in front of them every week. We constantly are putting on new programs. We don't get a time to really get saturated with our interpretation and how we would play it. So I think taking that time made me realize how almost uncertain I was about certain things, and really having to find my words and my inspiration was more of a challenge than I thought it would be. And then the second thing was, at the beginning of a project, it starts with suite 1, and just so you all know, they progress. They get more technically challenging as you go. So suite number 1, the first 6 days, I was like, this was such a good idea. I feel so good about myself. And around day 30, my husband was like, when is this ending? Because this is... And I got really into it and made these sets behind us. So we made a rose wall for a different project, but I used it for this. But it was made of chicken wire and tissue paper, and it took us night after night creating this rose wall. You all should check it out because we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. But I had different sets for each suite, and then I changed clothes based on the colors and how I felt each. So I really went overboard on this, as I tend to do with everything. But that was really, it was challenging, but I was on day 37 when this was done, I was really proud of myself. So, and I'm excited to say that this year I'm actually performing in public all 6 of them, and I've already done 4 of them, but I still have suite number 2 and 6 to perform in April. So Yeah.
Great. So I think we have time for a couple of questions from the audience. We are happy to talk about anything that you're curious about. Yes.
Where can we find all of this on the internet?
Great
Can we
question.
find these on the internet is the question.
Yes.
And
So,
where?
the most accessible would probably be YouTube. They are on YouTube. Natalie Helm Cello is my YouTube channel. You can follow me there, and I post a lot of weird but fun stuff and also some normal stuff as well. They're all music related, all cello related, and then there are on Instagram Natalie Helm Cello and Facebook, which is also Natalie Helm Cello. So as long as you remember my name and my instrument, you will find me. Yes.
Great. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, you, sir. Yes. Or.
Me?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, okay. We followed you everywhere. We've seen you play in every venue.
Oh, thank you.
But something unique happened yesterday in the Key Corral.
Oh, yes.
Was that the first time you've ever performed with ballet and, choral music? And can you tell us what that was like? Because that was an enormous project.
Yes.
So there's a question about a performance that happened, I think, yesterday with the Key Chorale involving ballet and vocal music. Yeah, so just
Yes.
talking about that.
So it's funny that you should say that. This year I've gotten really into collaborating with other artists, and I'm doing a whole series at Sarasota Contemporary Dance with Lamus, who is the choreographer and the artistic director there. And she will be dancing along with the Suite Number 6 in April, so you can check that out. But that was the first time that I had done the choir and the dancing. It's very engaging to the senses, I would say. There's a lot going on. A lot of people that you need to collaborate with, and dealing with, playing with a wind instrument is different than playing with a string instrument. It's different than playing with a vocalist. Everybody speaks in different ways, literally, like technically. And doing all that, for productions like that, we come in, we have 2 rehearsals and a dress rehearsal and then the show. And with Thanksgiving week being there, we had like a rehearsal on Monday and then a rehearsal on Thursday. And so there's like a lot of time for marination, you could say, in between those, but also time to kind of like, forget what's happening. So yeah, it was a new experience, an interesting experience, I think super successful. And playing with dancers is really cool. I was learning this season as well, because tempos are very important to them. And yes, and consistencies of those tempos. So I don't know if you noticed, but when I performed the first time for you all, my tempos were slightly different than when I was doing like the excerpts for you. And so, because I'm just kind of like, I'm feeling this one a little sprightlier now. But with a dancer, that doesn't really go over well. So there are elements, but thank goodness for a production like yesterday's, we have a conductor, and all the responsibility falls on the conductor. So I was like hands off on that one, but yeah.
Great. Yes.
I have a serious 2-part question, but I have to keep my image up with a silly remark. I listened to your program that your cello is from 1803. I feel bad for you that you can't afford anything newer.
That's the first time I've heard that, actually. That's good.
Seriously, 2 parts. Does that come out of the heading? Does ever make them like they used to? And being that old, the upkeep and maintenance of it, I just wonder if you could just expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, excellent questions. So it's kind of like a fine wine, I'd say. Oh, do you
So
wanna
no,
repeat
yeah,
the
yeah.
question?
So the question is just about the care and upkeep of the cello.
Yes.
Right, yes.
And kind of, why an older instrument versus a new and what qualities those have. So I could give you a really long answer. The short answer would be every country in every time period has had a prime kind of, I wouldn't say every country, but most countries have had a prime period in history that they've made instruments that, have only aged even well, like a fine wine, right? Because they're just made out of wood and they soak up anything that they've been through, so we can tell if there's more moisture in the air because the cello is like a little harder to play and doesn't respond as well. And then if it's cold, like it will shrink up and the bridge goes down just slightly so that your strings are hitting your fingerboard. So there's all these like little things that instruments do, and the newer ones are a lot more, they freak out a lot more in instances like that. The old ones are like, I've seen it all before. Like, this guy's from Italy. He's like, I came over on a boat. Like, it probably flooded on the way over. So he is super. So like playing in a cold space like this and then walking outside into humidity would make a newer instrument possibly kind of creak and settle. And a lot of times once they settle, they have a much warmer sound to them. If you find a newer instrument, a lot of times the newest ones coming out now, being made, are they project really, really far in a hall. So this instrument is a little bit smaller, which is better for my hands. It's a full-size cello. It's not a 7/8, but it's a little smaller, and it's good for a space like this. It would not necessarily project all the way back to in a large hall on top of an orchestra. There's different qualities you look for. This is from Italy, 1803, and that was the finest makers were around Italy at that time. De Blasio was a student of Vintapani, who was one of the top makers in Naples, and so owning an old Italian instrument is a dream for all musicians, most musicians, I'd say. And I was lucky I found this one in Idaho. No, sorry, not Idaho, Iowa. Sorry, Iowa, and I was playing it for Des Moines Opera there, and the principal violist had a mother who had just passed away who had played in the Houston Symphony for years, and she was like, can you just try out this cello, see if it's any good, I'm thinking about selling it, and I was looking for a cello at that point. I'd already booked flights to all the big cities, Chicago, Boston, New York, Philly, to try out instruments, because that's what you gotta do. You gotta go to the shops, and you say, here's my price range, and then they throw like 2 cellos at you, and you're like, And so I was like, okay, I'll try this one out. I played it. I was like, there's no way I can afford this, because I looked inside. All instruments have most instruments have a label that say the maker and the year and that have that information. And I was like, this feels like my instrument, but this is the first one I've tried. First of all, I don't think I can afford it. And second of all, I need to go to all of these places and try out everything before I know. At that point, I had been playing, I was the first person to play on a 2010 Martin Cornelissen instrument. He lives in the Berkshires, but a foundation in LA had given it to me. And so I was going from a brand new instrument that was really struggling with the different humidities and stuff like that to playing on this, which felt so good. So I flew to all those cities. I was in Chicago, the last stop. I called the owner and I said, of this instrument, I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy it. I don't even care, how many years it will take to pay off. And she was like, you know what, I'm too emotionally attached to it. I'm not ready to sell it. And on the spot, I offered her $10,000 more, and she was like, okay, come pick it up. So I bought a cello case, bought a ticket for the empty cello case on the plane, sat next to an empty cello case on the plane, so that because it was like a one-way deal, and met her in the Iowa airport, put the cello into the case, turned back around, and flew out. So that's the story of me and Ricky.
Yeah, great. So I think we could take one more question, and then we can continue talking in the reception in the lobby. So one more. Gosh, I haven't been to this side of the room, so yes.
I have a question about your breathing.
Okay.
Through the course of your performance.
Yes.
It didn't seem to be any consistent rhythm to it. It seems to be almost an emotional, transition-y thing.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so the question is about breathing throughout the performance and what that relates to.
Yes, that's an excellent question, and actually I'm a very loud breather, and I get this question asked frequently. In fact, I took an orchestra audition, and they're all behind the curtains. It was for the New York Phil, and they wrote on my comment sheet, "You breathe too loudly." So it is a comment I've gotten for a long time now. But I don't actually know when I'm breathing or why. I think it's actually a physical response to playing the instrument, because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of power. And it's weird because you have to finesse, you have to take all this power from the back, but then you're dealing with these like really minute, movements. And so you have to, so I think my breathing is a way for me to take the power and like transfer it, but have it a controlled state. And a lot of times I do, in orchestra, being a principal, you do lead your section and you need to move and be very kind of expressive of where you're playing and how you're playing and how you're phrasing. And so I do think I almost cue myself when I'm playing by myself. I'm like, dum bum, and so I'm kind of used to having that motion before I start playing and while I'm playing. So that's my best guess.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much again.